Good afternoon. My name is Tumi Tladi and welcome to my YouTube channel. And if this video is the first video of mine that you are currently watching, I'm gonna add you and I'm gonna advise you to watch my other previous videos. Currently, I'm in the midst of a new series called Xamarin, where previously I did cover a series on Solution Explorer, and then I went to version control series, and I went straight to web API series. Now I'm on Xamarin series. Okay, so this is our roadmap, something that will guide us in order to bring the best content to you right now. So listen, the videos are not restricted to this is not only videos I'm gonna do. Yesterday I did the overview of Xamarin, and we looked at what Xamarin.Forms is. We looked at what is .NET MAUI. So we are done with this video. We were focusing on these two subtopics. Today we're going to be doing project structure. How is Xamarin structured? So we're going to look at the shared project. We're going to look at Android. We're going to look at iOS project, right? But I'm not going to show how you create this project. I'm not going to do file new. No, I'm not going to do that. Assume that you have everything. And then this is my physical device. It's being mirrored. I love it. It's incredible. So I'm going to be showing some stuff, and I intend to do this video afterwards where we talk about Mvvm architecture. Here we're going to be talking about, let me do this. We're going to be talking about models, the topic of models. We're going to be also talking about view models, and then we're going to look at the topic of views. This is what makes MVVM, and we're going to include services. Yeah, so I intend to do this because before I show this, literally this app right now, we also want to be doing split screen. We'll talk about how do you set this thing up and what are the pros and cons on having your split screen on your device, and then how do you get the image, everything. We'll also talk about this thing that's spinning. We'll talk about checking for new updates. It's a feature itself. It's called version updates feature. There's the guy. We'll look at that, and we'll look at the bees indicator. In fact, we should start with the bees indicator before we do let me do this. We're going to do bees indicator first, and then we'll talk about version updates, because while I keep on recording, I'll keep on sorting. I'll also sort this list out. So before we talk about this app that you see right now, let's talk about the project structure in Xamarin.Forms. This is project structure. Okay, so let's save and let's go to Visual Studio. Good. So this is a shared project. We call this a shared project. This is where 90% of the code goes. Here, this guy is what we call platform specific project for Android. This guy is what we call platform specific for iOS, but you can also bring in platform specific for Windows, particularly UWP. Now, when it comes to .NET MAUI, we're not going to have this. Instead, we're not going to have this as a separate project. We're going to have one gigantic project. Inside there'll be a folder called platforms. Or I think now they renamed it to be projects. And then this is where these guys are going to be in. So I'm excited about .NET MAUI. Is the next evolution of, or the new evolution of .NET Xamarin.Forms. .NET MAUI, it's an evolution of Xamarin.Forms. Okay, so we're going to look at what goes into shared project, Android, and iOS project, because right now I'm running this physical Android application, but most of the code went into shared project, most of the 90% code, and we'll look at almost everything, okay, because I intend to do this thing thoroughly. So let's begin. So this is a shared project, right? There you find certain things. I'll talk about that. And this is Android platform specific, and this is what you have for iOS platform specific project. So I want to start with what you get out of the box when you do file a new project for Xamarin. Obviously, we have dependencies. These are internal stuff for Visual Studio dependencies. But these dependencies now, they're looking into packages, mean that NuGet packages. So we'll talk about most of these NuGet packages. I intend to cover all of them and how they're being utilized. And what else? And then you get this file called app.xaml. It's scheduled. We're going to talk about app.xaml. It's not a file, it's a page, but it's not a page, it's a file, right? Yes, app.xaml. Is it a file? Let's just do this. I think this is a file or a page, whatever it is. Okay, so we need to talk about this because you get this file out of the box, and we'll talk about what's the purpose of this. You don't get app shell, but we'll talk about app shell. We should do app shell. Wait, when do we do app shell? We should do number 10, app shell.xaml. This is very interesting. And then you also get this assembly info out of the box. Okay, so there's a shared project. Now, platform specific for Android, you get connected services, you get properties, you get references. Now, properties is one thing because it has what we call Android manifest file, and then we have this assembly info class, okay? And then references, this is very, very important. These are the NuGet packages you can see with the color, the actual NuGet packages, and then these, I believe, are the names. No, they're not the namespaces. What they're called, what do you call these things? Like they are the DLLs, you know? Yes, but I know the NuGet packages. Okay, what is the file type for this thing? That's if it has a file type. Properties. Let me quickly look at this because these ones are bluish. Let's see. What are you called? It's a physical file. You see, it's a mono android.dll, right? But I don't know what we call this file type or assembly. Perfect. That's an assembly. So this is assembly. These are NuGet packages. So yeah, we'll talk about the references, and then you get assets, you get resources, you get main activity. That's it. I did splash screen, I did renderers, and we'll look at all of those things. This is for Android. This makes up Android to be what it is here on the screen. And then for iOS, because currently I cannot run iOS, I do have an iPhone device, I do have an iPad device. Both of these devices are from Apple, obviously, and I intended to run the same app on my iPhone device and iPad device. The Apple developer account is not an issue. The issue currently is the device compatibility. I need something that runs as code, you know, so that means I need a MacBook laptop, but I'm gonna get it soon. Okay, so, but what I did is whatever I was doing, that was a need here, or whatever that was a requirement from the shared project, and then there was a need for Android, I made it a need for iOS. We'll talk about that one. So what you get connected services, you get properties. Here you only have assembly info. You get references also. You see, I told you, even though I'm not making use of iOS, I haven't seen iOS app running on iOS device. I haven't seen, but soon. But like I said, if there was a need on Android as a platform project, then I made iOS to have the same need, right? Where I brought in the assemblies and then the NuGet packages. And then what we get asset catalogs, native references, we get resources, we get app delegate class, we get entitlement plist file, we get info plist file, we get main class. Okay, so this is what you get, right? Now, quickly, let's get into Android. Let's start with the properties. I'm not going to open this file because it contains something very sensitive. I still need to move the sensitive stuff from that file, but I can show later on how my Android manifest file looks like and what are the permissions. We should talk about permissions. Before we go further. Before we even do this, we should talk about permissions. So this should be number 4, where we talk about permissions. And then here we're going to look at Android manifest file. When we talk about this topic of permissions, because the permissions are being set here, and then they're very, very important on this file called Android manifest file. Assembly info, let's see, what does it have? Oh, it does have something interesting, this class. It does have something interesting. I believe the permissions somewhere, some of the permissions that you can program, like you can program them, they're programmable. Yes, something you can do. Let me wait for Visual Studio to open the file. Okay, so like I said, what I do, it's unique. If you watch my intro to Identical Docs, where you see this pretty face of mine, where I set out the expectation for this YouTube channel, I said I was going to show everything. I was going to be raw, I wasn't going to hide anything, so it's one of the things that I promised to do. So with that being said, if you can just click that subscribe, and then after that you get the option and the ability to click on the notification bell, you'll be notified when I drop more videos. So what is this file all about? So this is where now general information about the assembly. Okay, this is not necessary at the moment. You can see things are old, 2020, but what's important, we'll come back to this, is this portion. You can add some common permissions. This can be removed if not needed. We'll talk about this. So when we look at the permissions, we should look at this file also. It's called assembly info class. When we look at this, it's a very, very important class that we need to look at. So, and then what we have now, references. So what happens with this is shared project. This is a class library. It's a class library. It's a .NET standard type of a project, this guy. If I do right click, I think this is very important that I show something here. So we want to look at the properties. So this is the property for the shared project. Why it's so important? So you know the project type that it gets to be, what makes up this shared project. It is a .NET standard project, which is of type class library. You see the target framework is .NET standard 2.0. So it's a class library. Here I did not do anything. I did not change anything here. Nothing, literally. Nothing. I don't tamper with this. Cool. So why it's so important? It's important to understand because it's a class library. We get to reference it when it comes to platform specific, which is Android. And here it is. It's an assembly. So that's the first thing that you need to understand. So I said, what you see here with the icon that's bluish, these are NuGet packages, and the rest are the assemblies, normal assemblies. So these are the NuGet packages. We'll talk about them as time goes by. And what I want to do, I want to quickly go to references for iOS, that we're going to look at the same thing. You see, identical docs underscore mobile, a reference to class library, which is of type.NET standard. Right, and then also these guys are NuGet packages, and then these are the assemblies meant for iOS, and this is what makes up an iOS application. And here, what makes up an Android application is this mono.android. Yes, this is what makes up the actual Android application. Okay, so we are done with the properties. And then assets, obviously this file about asset.txt, I never used this file. They tell you what to do. I never used it, but we'll talk about font awesome icons. We should talk about that. Font awesome icons. Let me just schedule it towards the end. We're going to talk about font awesome. They are the icons, and so I'm actually talking about this icon. You see this exclamation icon? There's so many icons on my app. We're talking about these guys. Okay, so we need to look at that because they're being referenced, and how do you reference them, and what .NET MAUI it's promising to bring. Okay, so these are the assets. And then, but when it comes to iOS, we have asset catalogs where there's a bunch of assets. This file takes too long to open, but we have the resources. The resources, this is where we have the images. We should talk about the images and how the images are being, because I intend to make you small videos on how you bring the actual images for platform specific, project. So we should talk about images. Here it's both Android and iOS. So it's very, very important. And how do you easily call them? And again, what .NET MAUI, it's promising to resolve certain things. Okay. So, and then you can also mix the images with the font awesome icons, with the storyboards, and other stuff. So that's the resources on iOS. And what do we have? Oh, the actual resources, here they are for the images, durables. They're the images. We'll talk about the splash screen file later on. We have a layout where we have a tab bar and toolbar, and then we have map images, and then we have the values. It's very important where we look at the colors and styles. But I'll show this when I do splash screen video. And about the resources, txt files, a useless document. And then resource designer, this file usually gets to be tempered. I don't know why, but it gets to be tempered most of the time. And then what do we have? We have main activity. Before I get to main activity, we looked at, okay, let me start with entitlement plist file, what this file is all about. Okay, so this file, you see entitlement, if you need access to Wi-Fi information, you can say add access to Wi-Fi information. If you need access to Siri, you can say enable Siri. And then because I have an iOS device, let's see the things I know. If you need access to iCloud, you can enable iCloud, particularly which services. If you need access to HealthKit and then HomeKit, you can enable them. If you need to sign in with Apple, yes, this enables you to do so. And then push notifications. I'm coming after this one soon. Push notifications for iOS. Enable push notifications. So this is entitlement plist file. What about the info plist? Now, info plist is a complicated file. So here you set up the name of the application. The identifier, it needs to be the same as Android, because on Android it's known by Google Play Store. So this identifier in this case should be known by Apple Store. So the build number should be the same number as of Android. So on Android, it's on Android manifest file. And then the deployment target, it starts from 8.0, main interface not set devices. I'm only supporting portrait. I don't do any other stuff. And then I can status bar. I can hide status bar, require full screen, support multiple windows. Visual assets. I can choose an app icon. I can choose launch screen. This has to do with the splash screen. Capabilities. If I need access to Game Center, okay, maps. if I need access to maps, to get stuff from Apple maps or background modes, if I need access to stuff like, let's see, background processing, audio, airplay, picture in picture, stuff like this. And then advanced stuff, document types, exported. Okay, there's nothing very interesting here. Okay, and then we have, I want to start with iOS, we have app delegate class. It's a very sensitive class also. Now, app delegate class, it's very, very important. I will come back to this. And so now on app delegate, you can read the comments. They come with a Xamarin to guide you as a developer. But what I did, the only thing I did was this, where I registered the plugin. This is the only thing I did to tamper with iOS, this. So it does have these global flags, and then when you initialize the forms for Xamarin.Forms, and then when you load the actual application, and then yes, when you return, after it finished loading, you return that to share project. But this is the only thing I did, and you can see with the comments, because this is very, very important, where I specify what exactly I did here. So this means initializing the NuGet packages. We'll talk about these NuGet packages later on, and then also we'll talk about this toast notification. You will see it. This is how you register it. Lastly, let's go to main class. Now this is the main entry, like we know with our program.cs file, right? So this is the main entry for iOS project. So I'm done. I'm not gonna save this guy, and then because it should not be saved. Sorry about that one. So don't save. Cool. Now we are done with iOS. I want to go to main activity. Now on the main activity for Android, this is very, very important because a lot of things I had to change. Like the label is identical docs, and then the icon, this icon, it had to be directed from the resources. Map, I believe, where there's my logo, there we go, this logo for the icon. As you can see, if I do this, I believe if I do this, this is the icon I'm talking about, this icon. And configuration changes, you set the configuration and the rotation, and then the screen is orientation. And then also, what is that I did here? This is what I did up until here. Also bring in the NuGet packages, initializing them, loading the application, and then I also brought this guy. I'll talk about this permission specifically, the record audio. I'll talk about that one later on. And then this is for Xamarin Essentials, where it initializes or it requests the permissions, all the necessary permissions when the another application boots up for the first time. And we should do that. We should do a video where my app is requesting permissions. Actually, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to remove all the permissions. But no, let's do that as soon as we do permissions. I'll remove all the permissions that are being granted right now and show how Xamarin Essentials with this method on overriding on request permission result, it's able to ask all the necessary permissions. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, I think that's it for Android. Like I said, here, these are all the NuGet packages. We'll talk about all of them, including this guy being the actual .NET standard library for this project. The rest are the NuGet packages that I brought in. And what else? We'll talk about these guys a bit later on. And assembly.info, we did open this file, I believe. I will talk about this, the actual fonts. When we look at the images, we should look at the fonts also. So let me do this. When we look at the images, we should look at the actual fonts. We should look at the fonts because my system has a unique font. I'll show in a second. Fonts, here we're talking about shared project. My system has a unique font, so we'll talk about how this file it's able to help us with this line of code where we're exporting the font. It's very, very important, and I'll talk about this XAML compilation, what it does, but why this file is very important. You see, with the version control, you can't just delete files you don't understand what they do. So what I want to show with fonts, let me just go that I'm a business or store owner. This is a unique font, this, and then I'll show this. This is a unique font, and this is a beautiful unique font. It's the same font that's been used, I believe, on my web applications. So this font, that's the name of the font that's responsible for that. Other than that, that's it. Yeah, that's it. We'll do the rest later on. Yeah, that's it. So what's the next thing that we need to do? So we should talk about Mvvm architecture. But I want to mark this guy as done because we are done with it. And then close all these guys. So I'm coming back shortly with a video where we're going to be talking about this guy, which is Mvvm architecture. With that being said, thank you very much. I hope that you're gonna subscribe because of the content, which is good. I'm just doing the bare basic, like basic stuff, you know, so that should be all good. With that being said, until next time.